Good afternoon. It's Joyful Christian Mystic Hermit. Well, I tried, and then they finally did, like 4 hours later, a repeat phone call to get me set up for my thoracic MRI that my pain doctor wants, and it's fine. I mean, nothing can be done about it, and I don't want a lot of. I know he likes to do anything to help relieve it, and he loves to do. Um, He's sort of the mad scientist at times. He likes to do these procedures. He had been an anesthesiologist and, just listening to people and their pain and, giving them their prescriptions for more opioids or whatever gets old for him. I understand. So he likes to try um, injections, blocks, procedures. He's very brainy and uh, into that aspect of it more than just being a medicine dispenser. But unfortunately, nothing he's ever tried has worked or helped. He wasn't the one that even helped for an hour or two. It was this other man he sent me to, who did very invasive neck blocks. And it was an ordeal. I had to have my neighbor drive me and bring me back and rest the rest of the day, lay down. Um, they sedated me, and it was on top of that, it was very, very painful. I had to hold totally still or risk being paralyzed. That was part of it. And it was painful, and I only had relief like for an hour, and it was the sedative that had given me the relief. So, and I had that done. I think we did 3 different times, 3 different areas. The third one I said no to, I think. There were 2 different areas that he did, 2 different times. And he wanted to try again with a higher up on the neck that he said was high risk. And I said, no, it has this. He was very nice doctor, new to the area, specialist in this stuff. Nice clinic, and all that sort of like a semi-operating room you had this done in. And Dr. M sent me another place the year before where they hooked me up to all kinds of stuff and then ran wires down in and let out certain medications that way. Didn't do a thing. I had to drive. I had a hard time finding a parking place. I waited and waited. It took a couple of hours. It was 3/4 of a day ordeal. Nothing. And I'm just done with. And then he's injected me. Now he says, "Well, I won't even get near your spinal cord with the injections." And I said, "But you've tried before, and there's." So I hope he doesn't, because it gets to be psychological. You get your hopes built up that there will be some relief. And, he says, well, maybe a couple of weeks or 6 weeks. Usually he'll say, oh, it could be 6 weeks or 2 weeks. And why? Then you have to just deal with the pain all over again, except I didn't. It never worked. So I had to go through all these things and no relief at all, except more pain. These injections are painful into your neck and your spine, even though he's not into the cord. The other guy was in. He went in between the vertebrae in my neck, and it was excruciating. Not enough sedation to make it worth it. And it was drive through the heaviest of traffic for my neighbor, and she had to wait around. She did. The next time I said, go shopping, run errands. Bless her heart. I paid her. You can't just expect people to do and do and do for you. So it cost me, even though she didn't ask for anything, but she appreciated it. I would too. It's her time also. And driving and car, and she's been to the ER with me. A couple of times, people have been so good to me. But no, I don't want any more experimentation. It's not worth it. But I do understand he probably needs to see, especially to justify increasing, because I still have to. I thought maybe it was not working well because when I changed this patch last night, I realized part of this little clear film, the reason I couldn't find part of it the other day, twice I couldn't find part of it. I finally found the piece on the kitchen floor after I had shop vacced. But thanks be to God, the dogs didn't get it. But it wasn't the one, it had been up next to the medicine though, so I didn't know if it had, could kill them. Probably if they had it right away, it could. But no, it's just this little teeny plastic sheathing was over the sticky part. Not all of it, but maybe a good third to a half, near to a third, probably 2/5 of it was covered. So I thought, well, maybe I wasn't getting the full benefit of that patch. But today I've already had to augment with my strong oral med. And I don't bother just with half. It's just, I needed the full. It's a low dose though, but still. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to need a stronger patch. But unless I get my muscles build up a whole lot. So I'm willing to wait, augment and wait, try to build up. But see, it's hurt me so much to stand just picking the fat out of that corned beef. I'm not doing St. Patrick's Day dinner next year. Sorry, St. Patrick. Hey, well, he doesn't care. He maybe didn't eat meat anyway. I don't know. Probably he ate lamb. He had been a shepherd as a young boy in Ireland when he'd been kidnapped and taken there. So, yeah, so that standing, that was a half hour of getting all that stuff, cleaned out, the fat out of it, and then a little bowl for me to have. Just the back got really bad. So, still hurts, but I've been down for probably 2 hours now. Oh, yeah. And I didn't get up, was it 11? No, we were having breakfast. I got up at 10, or maybe a quarter till 10. That's good. I'd like it to be a 7:45. I'll keep trying. But, so, got my MRI schedule. I think he needs that, though. I would. In fact, I told him, go ahead. I said, if you need to see what's going on, because I said, this is a lot worse. So obviously it's gotten a lot worse than a year and a half ago. We hadn't had one ever since I had those seizures with the Narcaning twice. So, you may as well see the damage. I can take it, I think, mentally, I hope. And not get all in a tizzy again over the senselessness of that head ER doctor, the cruelty and the viciousness, because I happen to be on pain meds. They hate you when you go to ER if you're on pain meds. The nurses in the hospital, except when I got in the main hospital part, after I'd been through hell in ICU, they took it really easy on me because they knew, I'd nearly died. But the ones in the ER didn't, except for one Asian woman nurse. She was lovely. But the rest of them really took it out on me. Blamed me for everything with my intestines and all. Because you're on opioids. Even though it's not your fault. It's terrible. See what you causes. All this mess to clean up. On and on. So, well, too bad. Get a different career then. That's not nice of me, is it? Is this pure love? I'm talking justice again. Camilla mentioned that. I was glad that I brought it up. And I've been thinking about pure love. Is it pure love to give in to someone or to give money to someone who's going to use it on bad stuff? Is that pure love? To give someone money, leave them money, knowing they drink to excess and overeat and waste money on high cost food and cocktails out at cocktail lounges in Manhattan. Is that true love, to give somebody something to enable them to harm themselves all the more when you know they've got a drinking problem and an eating problem? From pictures anyway. I didn't even recognize the person, my own son, a couple of years ago when I saw a photo of him. Took a while. His face was like huge, and I thought, who's that with my cousins? Oh, it's my son. And his wife I didn't recognize. They've been doing a lot of drinking and a lot of eating. And they like to go out and eat and drink. They're 22-year-old in their 40s. Well, she's younger. I don't know if she's hit 40 yet. No, not yet, but kids, party kids. So, well, they've got a drinking problem. Days of Wine and Roses is, and I pray for them every night. But, and I don't know, maybe he has stopped. I doubt it. I think if he got into a right mind and a right sense, he would want a relationship with me again. He would realize that maybe he would remember that he had begged and begged and begged and pressured to let him become Catholic. That he was old enough to make his decisions, and that's what he wanted. And so I did. And I was happy because he was so excited and he loved it for 5 years, 6 years maybe, and then didn't. And hated it and got out fine. But he hated God also. And then he turned against me. He hated me for getting him to be Catholic. I guess he thought I had forgotten the detail, a big detail. So he's not in his right mind. Alcoholics get really messed up in their minds. They do a lot of blaming of others for everything. And he's been hanging with his dad for 20 years. And I didn't realize, but it makes a lot of sense. Just in how his perspective has changed. His attitude, his spiritual, his anger. He's got a lot of anger now. And his voice even is imitating his. So, no, I don't know if it's pure love or if it's even justice to do that to someone. If it's right to cause someone harm. And so that's a question of justice also. Do we do that to someone else? Do we let them go on in a bad way? So justice is important, and pure love. What is pure love in that regard? Are we really looking out for our neighbor sometimes? Is that love to let someone do something that is going to harm themselves? And I thought of this in terms of my daughter. I finally emailed this morning. I just couldn't go on with it. This thing has been hanging over me. I apologized and how sorry I was. I said for many, many things. I said I'm also rejoicing. She hasn't asked anything about my pain or anything. But I mentioned I'm rejoicing about many things, which I am. So grateful for this pain patch. Very grateful for it. So there's hope. But I finally did text and say, I am very sorry that I reneged. I thought I could trade with you in December, but I can't. I couldn't. And I said I don't like reneging. I feel terrible about reneging on trading abodes. And I said my spine cannot stand on concrete or tile, really. I said that the concrete Saturday, that did me in. I was doing so well Saturday until I went to the grocery. So, and I mentioned the grocery bags, this lovely young woman who's going to come anytime I need something lifted. But I put my little dolly by the front door, and I'll use that to bring in these little grocery bags. And I can just empty them out from the floor. So there's always ways of handling it. I have to build up my body. I have to figure out ways not to stand in one place for more than like 10 or 15 minutes. Keep moving around, moving around. But I asked, I said if we could find a place that has the subfloor foundation over a crawl space, tiny house, or a townhome. I said I've found a couple, not in my little town, but right beside it. I said they cost significantly more. Do you still want me to keep looking for something like that? A little house that's on a foundation, not a concrete slab, but a crawl space foundation. That's open air under there with just some joists holding the floors up. So you have some give. You're not on concrete. And you can't even tile on top of those things. So, well, you can. You have to put cement board down. Most people don't. So that would be ideal for me. If anything is, nothing is. Like this house is. Crawl space. It's great. Considering how it is to even stand in the yard. I'm going to mow today still. I didn't get it done yesterday, but I can go back and forth. We'll see how it works, but that'll help build legs. My legs are starting to build up. I need to do a whole lot more, but I haven't heard back. I went ahead and said that this F patch is working, but I need more. It's still rugged, pain's rugged, and how sorry I am that honestly, and I also said I didn't really want to battle with the neighbor. I said, I didn't tell you, but she was apoplectic that I was moving in instead, and that she was moving out because she doesn't like dogs. I said, but she was, and very worried, and was so relieved when I said, no, it's just her fiance's stuff coming. I'm not staying. She kept asking about, is your daughter leaving? Oh no. There I'd been there for 3 hours waiting for this big truck with my dogs. See? So she just assumed that my stuff was coming and they were leaving. So, and she doesn't want dogs next door to her. And I don't want to battle with anyone. But I really see there's justice right there. Can we live in a world? Are we going to live in a world that is just? It's only if we can make it that way for ourselves and try to avoid, if we know a situation's going to be touchy with someone else, avoid. That's where I am in life. After 3/4 of a century in about a month, I will be looking for anything that I'm not going to have trouble. I've had enough troubles. So, but I haven't heard back, but I'm willing to go. I don't have to be here. And I made that clear. It's my back and tile and concrete and, I said I really do best in peace and quiet and certain kinds of floors. This is nothing new. A little rubber pad wouldn't help with concrete enough. Not the way my back is now, and I'm sorry about it. I don't like it either, because I could have just bought a new place all finished. Back when I had the income and the house prices were a lot less, half the price. Could have got half the price. And nothing, wouldn't have had to work on it. But I needed something to force myself, I thought. But I'm seeing, it probably is definitely now, after having my body shaken the hell out of it twice with those seizures. No protection for my thoracic spine or neck. So I can see where I can't be doing any lifting now. So I'm going to work on it. And I pointed out all my blood, everything turned out okay. Need to drink more water for my kidneys. But the creatine levels down, the GFR rate is better now. So my anemia's gone, just pain, that's it. So I shouldn't do something that's going to cause me to die. I do believe in God deciding how and when we'll die. And if I have some place that I'm living in that makes me so much worse and upset and frustrated and in bed all the time, so I guess I wouldn't be. I did find another set. There's absolutely no yard at all, though. No yard. I'm talking like 3 feet on one end and 3 feet on another, and about 2 feet between at most. So I don't know how that would work with the dogs, but take them for walks. But I found these places, they do have the crawl spaces. So, but they're very expensive. Not as expensive as the one place that I found. Wow. This other, though, was expensive. It's very nicely done inside small little places, but no yard at all. But I would come here and work on the yard. So that would work out for me. So I'll keep my eye open. She's going to have to let me know, though, if she can buy something, get a mortgage and buy, or I can help, but she'd have to make the equity loan payment on the HELOC payment for me the months I couldn't make it, because I'm not making it through every month. So I could use to get her mortgage down more, do that. But so we'll see what she wants, because I don't need this big house, and it's not like I'm going to be doing a lot of work on it. I think I could paint. That would actually be good for my upper back to paint, roll, especially the ceiling in the living room and stuff. And I just have to be very careful about lifting and not stand for any length of time. So learn to do things in little bits, like painting the house. Start working on that anytime the weather's fine for it. So I need to get going. I need to get the rest of the pruning done and things picked up and lawn mowed, crabgrass killer down, and get my sprinkling system going, or wait till we're going to have some rain. But it's getting about time that I'm going to need some water on my stuff. So moving forward, I didn't mention to her, once again, they are welcome to live here. Cohabitate. But it isn't as convenient, because now they can do a little work and 5 minutes they're home, and back and forth they do. If they have a couple-hour break, they just go home, and so that's nice. But here they wouldn't be able to do that. And they'd have to be upstairs, probably, because my dogs don't go up and down the stairs. They'd be free from the dogs. I could keep them in here when they could fix their dinner or whatever, because I stay in here. Otherwise, we could work out a little schedule, but I didn't mention I didn't want to upset her, because I know they don't want to do that. I'd prefer not, but it's an offer. It's always there. And I don't know if it's not pure love not doing this, but it's not until we get a place that I can cope with physically. I think pure love is looking out for the other person too. And for me to give in now and go someplace that knowingly will make me in far more agony is a bad thing to let her do. It's better to let her wait until I have to go to some care place, or if she wants to, finds a place and gets it for me. I could get it by selling this place. Wouldn't get much. I would have to try to. Then I would spend the money to hire a handyman to help finish up some stuff, so I could get more money for this place. But now I can't spend that money because I need it for emergencies. But if I knew I were going to sell it, but I can't sell it because she wants it when I die, and I like that idea because it's in a trust. It would just roll right over. And I love that idea, and I want her to have it. We just got to work out the right situation for me to go to, is all. And so I can't, it seems like it would be wrong for me to give in knowingly that it was going to cause me harm, a whole bunch extra pain, and I'd be more bedridden there. Plus, have a problem with the neighbor right off the bat. Yeah, I can deal with it. I've been through worse. I can always tell the woman, well, you can move. Sorry, but I guess you're going to have to if you can't cope with the dogs. You know, but there is an HOA there too. I don't know how strong it is, if they would get on me for my dogs barking or something. But who wants to live in consternation? I'm in La La Land here. I've never had it so good here. This has been the best place I've lived as a single person. Including with the HOA guys made it rough, but they're okay now. I mean, they don't like me, but the older man does, but he has to go along with his pal. But the other guy, he isn't harassing me anymore, and they won't. So I found information more about hermits. Well, anyway, justice. I'd started this video and it was much better, and then the St. Luke's called for my MRI, so I had to stop it and I started this over. Sorry to go into all this stuff again, but it does make me think about pure love and what our responsibility in love is to the other person. It seems okay to just give in and do what other people want out of love, to be selfless, but if it's going to boomerang on them, that they're the way they are, that I'm enabling them all the more in a bad way, that ultimately then is on them. Like if I get a lot worse and can't function and don't enjoy life at all, am in bed all the time because I can't get up and walk on the tile or stand even for 4 minutes to get our breakfast on that tile without extreme ramifications, then what is that then? How is that going to come back on my daughter for wanting to change and for not understanding about the flooring issue, the concrete? And I wrote, I know she knows how bad I can get, but she can't fathom it. No one can. I said, I understand no one can fathom what a little detail like that can do to me, can cause in added pain. And I said the severity of it now is at a point where it's hard to even mentally cope with. I just can't willingly do that to myself. It's not a matter of selflessness. It's getting down to sanity, unless I was suicidal or something, but I'm not. Not unless the pain gets terrible, so then that would be that on by the nines going there. Or going back to the grocery store for any length of time. No more long trips in the grocery store. Um, so, yeah, I think we do. I think pure love has to think through how what we do out of selflessness or giving over or leaving something, like my son, leaving him my parents' part of their money under the circumstances, and thinking of my parents. Yes, they're in heaven, pure love in heaven, but is there no justice in heaven? Would they think, oh, sure, would my dad think, oh, sure, leave him that money. He drinks through it. He's an alcoholic. I lived through that hell, and I got out of it. But, go ahead. It's fine. I want my grandson to be an alcoholic. Have him spend my money on booze. I don't think that's justice to my dad's hard-earned money. It was one thing for him to do it, use his money to drink himself, but he stopped. And he was my son's age about when he stopped. So we'll see. There's always, I'm praying more that he stops and that he decides to be civil with me and realize that I'm not to blame for the Catholic Church being as it is in some aspects. I'm trying to live the life, the spiritual life. And I didn't like the bad priests any more than he did. So, or just the disappointment of it. I think that was a lot of it. We were, both of us, rather crushed by what it ended up, and the terrible sex abuse crisis. I think every Catholic on earth was just shocked and disgusted, very upset. And it was a wake-up call. And I don't think people still realize we're the ones that create them into monsters if they're monsters. Basically, it is our fault for letting them get away with everything. Build them up as little princes and kings, not even princes, but kings. And they can do whatever they want. Oh yes, Holy priest, alter Christu. No, they're striving just like the rest of us. They're not Christs. They're not other Christs. They're struggling, and they need our prayers and our watchfulness and our getting on their cases, and fraternal correction of priests is very needed, and of bishops if they don't do things about it. Write to Rome. So, or make it known. There's pressure, numbers. Stop the donations. That would make a lot of changes. Write into the bishop. If you don't deal with this priest, this whole block of Catholics are going to stop our donations. We have to fight the temporal with temporal means in those cases. Fight the temporalization of the church, the institution, through institutional means. In our country, the two political parties, the one that doesn't have the main leadership, the majority, it always is trying to battle to stop government or different things. See, it's getting dirty. Got to play dirty. And like the world does, if that's all they're going to understand. Isn't that a shame? Have prayer campaigns, yes, but hopefully bishops would do something about priests that have got problems, and I think they do now. They do. But they can go on for a while and people will know. And they don't. And it's hard on the bishops. There's not enough priests. It's not like they can just yank them out. But they do. There was a young priest, well, ended up, he was also homosexual anyway, and having troubles with that. Too many temptations with that. But he became an alcoholic. And he had to be removed, and he ended up leaving the priesthood. They talked with him, and he realized that it wasn't his. He'd gotten into it because he didn't want to shame his parents, and he was protected then by being a priest from having it be known that he was homosexual. So that's sad, that because his mother was very, very proud that he was a priest. And so it's a terrible thing, It's sad when that means that much to a mother or parents or family, that their son's a priest too, that they build that up into such a spectacle that a homosexual young man, like that was the case with the priest that I had to get out. But he himself went into it. He wanted his family proud. He was narcissistic. He wanted them to think he was great. And he was very popular. Did a great job. Other than he was just a fraud the whole thing through. And grooming boys. He could hardly function for the lust of his altar servers and things. So it was sick. But he had told me, that he was the only son, 2 sisters, and how proud they were and his grandmother was all just all excited her grandson was going to be a priest, and she had died and knew and was upset then, realizing from people from the other side know, but it was a cover for him also, but in a little bit of a different way, more narcissistically. He realized he could come out really looking great. And he was, I think he had issues. He was very small and very childish, very, very boy-like. So he was arrested development. And it all just fit in for him very well. And he would flirt with women to try to make sure people were thrown off the scent. And so it's, but we create that. The Catholic families create that. I don't know if all of them or if many, but it's a huge deal if somebody's son is a priest. A lot of the families think that way. Such an honor and all. Well, it is. But it causes some to get into it for the wrong reasons. For the honor of it, to have their parents adulate them or be so proud of them, when maybe they would have trouble out in the world at some other career or weren't sure what to do. Oh, well, I'll be a priest and everybody will be so proud of me. And I'll be important. And also no one will suspect my gender issues or my sexual issues. So, but the early hermits, they withdrew for a different reason. And it was to get away from the temporalization. My instincts were right. This is a researched article. I've had it for a long time. I just had never read it. So I'm going to just comment about the practices of hermits. Withdrawal from but think of justice in terms of even what we do to kowtow and to build up priests beyond what is healthy for them. Is that pure love to do that? To turn blind eyes or to have this unrealistic view of them? That we don't see them as struggling, striving men, busy, busy, busy. Yes, thank them, appreciate them. People say, oh, the sacrifice they've made to not marry. And then you find out, like one in a nearby town where I had lived, he had been married for many years. And they lived in the nearby city and they pulled it off. He'd been married, even had a child. Well, they'd started out with an affair. She was a parishioner and she moved away. No one ever heard from her again. Well, they married. And they were living in this other city in a subdivision. And he worked it out. How he would, he made sure he never had any of his cleric things at home. And I think he might have driven a different car, had a car there at the parish, and then would sneak off. Many nights he would stay at the rectory, but on his days off he would go home and be a dad and a husband. And then one Sunday, I don't know, I guess he felt that he was going to be found out, or he had been found out or something, so he just made the announcement. And he got out of the priesthood. He made the announcement to his congregation that he was sorry, but he'd actually been married for like 6 years, or I don't know if it's that long, maybe it's 4 years, and had this 4-year-old son. I mean, they married when she had the baby or shortly after. And it scandalized them all, just totally blew them away. And, but, they're human, and he felt it was better he loved the woman but he didn't want to get out of the priesthood. He didn't know what he'd do to make money, so he had to figure that out. And I guess she was working then. The child was old enough that maybe he was a stay-at-home dad or something after he got out of the priesthood. But a lot of men choose not to marry anymore, but they don't actively give up sex. And that's hard. And the work that a priest does is totally for others. Like Dr. H, the psychologist, the clinical psychologist, he gives of himself like a priest. 12, 14-hour days he would work, helping people. And then on the phone with urgent cases, even more. And his wife died, and he was he was divorced for many years and busy with his helping people. And then married, and then she died, and then he's engaged. I don't think they're going to get married, but living with a woman now. He's 80. I haven't heard from him in a long time. I don't know. I hope he's okay. But he had some heart issues, had to have stents put in. So I hope he's okay. But in our society, there's more and more women living celibate lives. They just find it's easier, and especially if they've been divorced and realize at their age range, the men are out there, they're out there for reasons that they don't make good husbands, or men will find that they can't find a woman that makes a good wife, and they're just better off being single. They have their guy friends and their work they do, and volunteer work extra, and a lot of married couples pretty much end up that way anyway, sort of cohabitating, staying together, but more or less, the sex is sort of non-existent anymore. And, life changes. Marriages change. The relationships change. The kids get grown and you're more householders then. Convenience, staying together. And I think this woman, she has a friend who um, I think they bought the house together, but it's not an alliance, not a sexual alliance. They just both were friends and wanted to have a house, invest. So a male and a female did, and just live there in a non-sexual relationship, in a non-marriage, two friends. So so I don't even but I think some people get in their mind that the priests, that they owe them something of adulation and put them on pedestals, and in the long run, depending on the priest's personality, but I think it makes it harder for the priest to keep humility. And over time, that kind of lauding and adulating and constantly being told, what a saint you are and what a hero and the sacrifice and, oh, on and on, that and you need to take more time for yourself, and here, let me give you this and do that for you and do this for you. They get out of reality, and it's not then a far leap for them to expect to be treated like a master and to think of themselves as Jesus Christ in a sort of a warped way, maybe, or I don't know, or just as a king, and should always be obeyed and make demands of others. And of course they'll do whatever the priest says and help and do whatever. And go to people and they'll hand over money. And it's heady. It could get heady. Not saying it does, but I've known some that it did. And they got away with terrible tempers, horrible things they would say to people, cruel things they would do, live scandalous lives on the side. Then there would be others who would just be working themselves silly. And, but they were this one here who worked, he's now at some other area. But he worked so hard. He had this huge parish and a huge staff, and he was a worker. And, but it was so much administration and he was more spiritually inclined himself, but he was pouring himself out. But he intentionally maintained his boundaries. He was not going to let people ruin him, make him into a king, or carry on. I saw him, push back at people. He was not going to become a narcissist or a deluded, would you call it, a dictator type, or even an autocratic leader. He did not. He was a management by objective person. It's the greatest leadership style. I don't know what they call it now, but set the objectives and engage other people. He encouraged people to do things and to get involved and take over. Well, he had to delegate. He couldn't have done it all, even his staff, which was huge. But he was just busy, just even managing the staff. So, but no, he was keeping his holiness, his own spiritual space and holiness intact, which we need to help priests with that. That's what we should help them with. Make sure that we're not leading them into building them up into something that will psychologically is not pure love and causes them their own spiritual downfall or conceit or pride, to become arrogant and used to handouts, you know, to be pampered beyond decency, beyond, um, because some of them truly want the spiritual life. They don't want to be the little kings and being given money at the door and, oh, here, go spend this. If the person does have some kind of an issue, a problem with drinking or drugs or whatever, porn or anything, or whatever it could be, sex life, see, giving them extra cash or saying, oh, you just sacrifice so much. You need to take better care of yourself, or here. Or if they have a weight problem, oh, here's these brownies I made for you, Father. No, that's not pure love, and it's not justice. So justice is part of pure love, and knowing what justice is and what injustice is, not only for ourselves, especially for others. What we might do and what it might cause someone else in a downfall for them, or a temptation, or something they would regret later. Like if I would get moved and then I would be in horrible agony, and ultimately my daughter would realize, and she would have a terrible time of it, because she's very loving and she does care. But it's a conflict this is a conflict for her, granted. And I'm sure it reminds her that things weren't fair with her marriage, with the divorce, that Buddy finagled, that she couldn't keep the house, wasn't given a fair shake at all on that, through something he manipulated with a private mortgage guy. He got the 2.9% interest rate, and she wanted to qualify to have the house. She could have at 2.9, but the mortgage guy, after my son-in-law got through with him, told her she had to be at 6%, and she couldn't qualify at 6%. But she gave her husband the 2.9%. It wasn't assumable. It was. And I said, you need to get a lawyer, but she didn't want to. She didn't want to fight. So, and she's handling it. I think she's most financially not as well off. But otherwise, with upkeep, as busy as she is with all her work and her travel, that would have been a lot to maintain. So, not terrible, but he ended up selling it and building himself a new home with his new wife. So he's spending money now that he never did with her. So it's hard on her. All this stuff is hard. And I said, it's revenge. I says, he's doing this for revenge. He knows he was awful with you. He's now trying to show that he can be good. And I said, we just pray that he stays that way for his new wife, so she doesn't go through what you went through. It's all we can do. But, so there was injustice. And it usually is. Women tend to not do well in divorces, because they usually don't have the money, especially if they've been rearing the children, or can't work or something, or their job isn't more. Usually the husband has the higher paying job. It's getting turned around now. But there's times then when the men get the injustice. So, pure love. Justice has to be a component of it. And that takes a lot of analyzing, really, of what is just and what is not. What's just for us, and also what's just for the other person. That may seem very unloving on the outside, but if pure love is justice, and we're doing something that's going to cause somebody else to do something that's very damaging to themselves or will be unjust in the long run, then that's not pure love. So it's not, pure love isn't easy even to know in our giving pure love what is best. See, God always gives us good for our good. And it's not always what we think is good, though. See, that's where this suffering thing comes in. Can we see that the suffering has done us any good? Has it been good? I can see that now in lots of ways that my kids don't even see. What life would have been like with a mother who was working all the time, working until late, wasn't at home all the time, and then come home and I'd be exhausted and wouldn't be able to help with homework at night, where I was totally disabled and on time, and I wasn't in pain seizures all the time. So I was there for them. Conversations, taking them to the Five and Dime, out to breakfast on Saturday morning, the last day when summer break would start, doing things with them, making their Halloween costumes, or, getting them stuff. They would have a haunted house in our garage and all kinds of creative things they would do. And I would be there helping as much as I could, but enable them to be able to do all those things. And otherwise, I wouldn't have been so available. But it's just sort of interesting. But their views as adults, they are tending to see, I suppose, the negatives and how hard it was. And it was hard financially, very hard. And my irritability when the pain would get too much for me with no pain meds, that was tough. And this daughter even, well, you read so much, and you, just like my ex-husband, you're so much like him, and I married him thinking it would be okay because he was like you, or you were like him. And I said, what? I said, yes, I read a lot. I couldn't do much else. So I said, I started reading a lot of spiritual things to keep me going, keep me buoyed up, and to understand things. And I said, but you don't remember anything before the accident when you were 6 or 5 or 4? How active I was? And no, and they don't. And the one that was 8 doesn't remember before. Because I suppose how I have been for all these years, and the suffering included with it is so gripping or stuck in their minds. And my irritability from too much pain, like I would get all these, we made these gingerbread houses. I had these molds. I got 2 of them, and then I could do one at a time out of 2 molds and do them for them and their friends to come over. And I'd buy all these different colored Christmas candies of different types, and I'd whip up all this. It was egg whites and powdered sugars made like a white concrete piping that they, put them together, and then they would use that to stick their candies on and decorate their houses. And they would have like 2 friends at a time over and do that a couple of times. I would be making like a dozen of these houses or more. And of course, standing always got me. But I would do that. In fact, that was wood over. It was a concrete base house. And but then I would have pain seizures anytime I would overdo. But it was worth it, to do for the kids. And I would space myself with that baking part. But just cooking their meals was hard on me for 3 children. and full meals. I didn't eat like I eat. um, and variety, had to be healthy and variety. I would stand and sew things for them. Um, I don't know, drive them in town places and go to their events and stand, or that would be on concrete like in gyms, but soccer field wasn't. That was good. But they don't remember those things, see. They don't. Uh, Christmas, I always made sure it was really nice, Christmas, and um, Thanksgiving. I stopped doing turkeys. I did one once, and it did me in big time. Just get leaning into the oven. That would really get to me. So I had a wall oven in the house where we were doing the gingerbread houses at Christmas. But that was something they really enjoyed with their friends. Um, oh, I don't know. They were in all kinds of activities. We had all kinds of friends. So it's just what sticks out in their minds now as adults. I think because they see their lives as parents, their lives as mothers, and my daughters especially. The son isn't going to have any children, and it's for the best, really. Not necessarily for him, but I think given how he has gotten into other issues, best. Um, Whatever, it's up to God. But so I think it's people can very easily see things and not get into a reality too much of what life can be. But but when they were younger, they thought I was great mom and stuff. So that was nice. We'd play games and on the bed, usually often, and uh, bedtime stuff, and freedom to play and to do what they wanted. Had always had a nice yard for them, and so um, it just I think they eventually they'll see it in a different eye. Maybe not. It's okay. It's okay. But I can see how God did good for me and my children. But from how the world views, it isn't. We don't necessarily think it's that God's doing good for us, especially when it comes into suffering. We think, oh Lord, how could you think this is good? But it is. He wants good for us, and God looks upon as justice. Look at Mercy put her hand on me. Don't stop petting me. So see how justice works with pure love. It takes some figuring, even with God, to see God's justice. That maybe we think, oh, that's not justice, that's not love. You're hurting me, God, you're hurting me. And it still remains to be seen. I mean, maybe, like I say, if God would say, uh, do this or do that, even though it's going to cause you more suffering, I would. I just have to know, and that can take some waiting to find out. But my kids bent over backwards for me. I will say that. There's no doubt about it. They took care of me. And kids shouldn't have to do that, but they did. And I was grumpy. Yeah, I know I was. So that was not good. And over time, I got better at managing it. So I'm going to do the hermit stuff another time. This has gone on long enough about. Maybe I shouldn't even publish this because it's a lot of repetition. Working it through. Thinking more about, though, justice. And pure love and justice. Justice has to be involved in pure love. And how how justice fits in from our perspective for the other person. That's a big responsibility with pure love. And then I guess this video also I got off on priests and ministers too. They can be treated, but I know priests. I see the difference in priests and ministers. I've lived it, the difference. But just keep in mind, and religious sisters too. People can tend to put them on another level, and some of these hermits, like the ones I've read that become diocese hermits, and they people give over to them, and they miss out on this hermit life I'm going to share with you in another video. I'll just have it be all hermit, promise. So God bless his real presence in us, the Trinity's pure love in us, and help us, Lord, to understand justice. Justice that we have, and justice that we mete out in pure love. That we are always looking out for the good of the other person in what is ultimately best for them. What's just for them, and ultimately loving.